Hello, this is the Drive-In Podcast, and tonight we will do something which is out of the ordinary for us. We will sort of talk about the state in some ways, the state of movies today, what constitutes a good movie, and yeah, pretty much that.
In our eyes, of course.
Sure, I mean, it's our videos. Kind of makes sense. So I guess we'll begin by talking about what we individually like movies to be, or what we like in a movie. And I guess you can start if you want to.
Well, my opinion has shifted a lot in the last 5 years or so, I guess. I guess it would be, I have to say, since Drive came out,
Okay.
and that movie cast a spell on me. So I began to have a different view on cinema and how I should perceive it on just art in general, not just movies but video games, music, and so on. Because before I was a big action buff or superhero buff.
Sure.
So in my eyes, I thought a good movie was an entertaining story. I guess a spectacle, you could say. It was more entertainment than actual art, if you know what I mean.
Okay,
I mean
yeah.
that may sound a little bit pretentious, but
No.
I guess I was looking more to be entertained than
Stimulated.
or penetrated, if you know what I mean. Penetrated or
Ooh.
just
Enriched.
rather being simply told a story.
Yeah,
Right.
I see.
I was more of I like films such as Spider-Man, Superman, and that goes back to my really younger days when I watched cartoons on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, and they had Spider-Man, the animated series, and Batman. They had Superman runs from the 70s and the 90s.
Yeah.
So I was a lot into larger than life characters, which I am still today, by the way. But I mean, gradually that shifted more to the actual art of making film. I mean, to the actors, to the directors, to the producers, everybody involved.
Yeah.
And going back to Drive, after I watched Drive, and I saw as I said, it cast a huge spell on me. So I watched a lot of interviews with Ryan Gosling and Nicholas Winding Refn, because it was sort of a movie that touched me, emotionally.
Yeah.
And I guess that's how I perceive films today, is that how do they make me feel?
Yeah.
If it's a sad movie, it doesn't make me feel sad and depressed. If it's a scary movie, am I scared? If you know what I mean. And if it's a comedy, is it funny, and so on. Those kind of films are a bit difficult to find these days. I mean, mainstream cinema has.
Can I
Yeah, you
say
can call
something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I personally don't think movies have become worse or better with the years. I think we simply watch the movies that are remembered from those earlier times.
Right.
So I don't really think anything has changed, but we can still discuss trends which we will get to eventually in this episode. But yeah, continue if I
Yeah, I was just going on about the state of cinema today, and I mean, those films that those rare films that really touch you, I guess, are really difficult to find these days. Because I guess the mainstream is all. I mean, the movie business is ultimately about making money, and it's a business at the end of the day.
Sure.
And what we see in the theater is, I mean, it's okay in the long run. We're entertained, and we are fans of characters like Iron Man and Captain America and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I guess, in my eyes, it sort of gets repetitive in the end, because a lot of it is just the same to me. And I mean, a lot of people enjoy those films, and I could be happier for them. But I guess it's not what I as a as a fan and a future, maybe if I work in this industry someday, it's not what I want to make. This is,
Yeah, I see.
I guess I want to tackle more serious issues that
Sure.
more realistic real life films, kind of like The Hunt that we reviewed earlier.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Because that's a movie that really says something about that's really relevant to the modern I guess society. And yeah, I just want to see more films like that. Given more attention to, and so on.
Yeah, I guess it's my turn to sort of.
Yeah,
It's hard to top what he just said, but I'll guess I'll talk a little about movies that have moved me and made me interested in movies. And I think a movie that I've often that I rewatch from time to time, and a movie that I constantly watch scenes from is probably the film Good Will Hunting with the late Robin Williams, with the great Matt Damon, with Ben Affleck, who now very very recently proved that he's a phenomenal Batman, and many more. And I think what moved me so much about that movie was just how real it felt. I mean, the film is about this genius who is probably one of the smartest people in his world. He's this brilliant mathematician, but it's still, in a sense, it's not really about that. It's about a young man who is living a very sheltered life, living an isolated life, and who sort of needs help to get out of that. And when I watched it again recently, it felt so, or when I watched it again like 1.5 years ago, and when I showed it to you, it sort of it felt so real. I mean, it really is a story about. It's a movie made by a couple of young guys for young men. It sort of is to show you that you don't have to be alone. You can always find the right girl if you look hard enough and if you try many times enough. And that's inspiring. I mean, that's sort of, I think that movie for me sort of is the best description of why I love film. It's so well shot, acted, and it's so well told. But I guess the same as you. I guess I'm similar to you in the sense that I've been interested in that I've watched movies for a very very long time, and I still like those stupid action movies that I love. For instance, I love many of the Marvel movies. I love I just watched Enter or what's the name of that movie
Way of
again?
the Dragon.
Yeah, Way of the Dragon. And you know, it's not a great art, but it's very entertaining. The choreography, choreography was great for its time, and it's yeah. I mean, I guess I guess my sort of thing here is that I love being moved emotionally by a movie. You know, there are certain scenes, there are certain and that's my favorite thing about movies. It's when they are emotionally engaging, when they really rip at your heartstrings, when they make
penetrate you, right?
Yeah, when they penetrate you, and that's really the biggest pleasure about watching movies, and it's rare. Such movies are actually quite rare, where you sit there and you just think like, wow, I really, really identify with this character. I really, really identify with what's going on here, and that's sort of why I love film. So yeah, that's.
I just wanna comment on yeah, and I just wanted to comment on Good Will Hunting. It's a story about a young man who's has like there's so much potential inside of him, right? And he has and he doesn't do anything with it. It's just sort of stuck.
Yeah.
And this is sort of stuck. And he meets this person, Robin Williams, you know, releases this potential and gets things off his chest that otherwise he probably wouldn't have done, right? And it's I guess it's something that I can relate to, because you know we all have something we wanna, I guess, how do I say this? You know, we want to change something, right?
Yeah.
And I guess Robin Williams in that movie is kind of a guy like that takes Matt Damon and says, you know, no, it's all right. You know, what do you think about this? What do you want to do about this? You know, and so it's sort of interesting to see, you know, that realism between those characters and interaction, because I normally find human beings to be they're really like disgusting creatures, if you know what I mean. Really.
Yeah, I feel that way.
It's so.
I feel that way sometimes as well. It's
a very you know, judgmental. They're very judgmental and I guess I don't know, greedy, and as it's very conformist, for lack of a better term. Just everything is so about, you know, routines, and you should do this, you shouldn't do that, and that's how you're supposed to think. No, you can't do that. That's not smart. That's not good for you. But everything revolves about opinions, right? There's no facts.
Yeah.
You know, if
sure.
I mean, I just personally, I just find that movie very satisfying, because just a guy who just you know, says what he wants, does what he wants.
Yeah.
With the help of another friend. So yeah, so I like to see more of that, you know, more of those films that, you know, are more real to society and people today. And I guess we're both fairly young.
Yeah, we turned 22 this year.
We turned 22 this year, and I always wanted to see more of always wanted to see more young actors get a chance, you know, to be in prominent roles. I mean, we're seeing that more often these days. We are,
actually. I mean, if you just swift injection here. I mean, if you look at the movies from earlier, like 50s and 60s, you can see that all of the actors there are like, I'd say like 35 plus almost.
Yeah.
And the female or the actresses they act alongside them are like 10 or 20 years younger than they are.
Yeah.
In these days, we have the ages are evening up, which is very good, and you see also that
Yeah, it's
you
slowly.
also see that actors are staying around more. There are many great there were many great actresses who sort of lost their star power once they grew older because
Yeah.
they weren't sex
I mean,
objects
that
anymore.
still exists in a way.
Kinda,
I guess a little bit with women. I mean, I think there's some rumors going on. I don't remember who it was. There's some actress. Where they turn 40 and they're no longer a sex appeal or a sex symbol because they turn 40.
Yeah, they should check out Robin Wright. She's hot.
But anyway, yeah, as I was saying, yeah, I'd like to see more young actors get a chance and young filmmakers in general, because it's always nice to see fresh ideas.
Yeah.
Fresh fresh ideas and mindsets from younger minds, basically.
Yeah, and it kind of that's sort of the problem with movies these days is that the director and the scriptwriter and the actors, they don't get much freedom anymore.
Yeah.
We recently watched and reviewed Batman vs Superman, which is an abysmal movie. I mean, if you check out our review, you'll hear us tear that movie apart. But part of the problem, many problems with that movie, one of the main problems was that the studio or Warner Brothers wants to compete with Disney and Marvel, and they rush and instead of doing what Marvel did, which was building it up gradually, they rushed this movie. And it shows. It's a terrible movie. It tries to inject so many different things, and that's one of the bad things about movies today. And it sort of goes back to the 70s and 80s. If you remember, if you watch movies back then, you'll see that they tried many, many different types of things, like Taxi Driver, like Apocalypse Now, and there was this movie director called Michael Cimino, the guy who directed The Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
And he was trying to make a movie called Heaven's Gate. And, Cimino was a very difficult director to work with. He tried so many things. Most of his movies production-wise were a mess. Like, so was The Deer Hunter, which I think is one of the greatest movies ever made. But he really screwed up with Heaven's Gate because the movie ended up being a couple of hours too long. So they butchered the movie and they released it to theaters, and it was the biggest bomb ever. It was extremely expensive and it bombed. And the studio, after that film, after all the production problems with that film, directors have not gotten as much freedom as they have had at that time. And you see that in movies today. The studios are too much involved in what's going on production-wise. They don't let the directors do what they want to do. I think, TV is much more interesting than movies these days. They do so many interesting things there. The TV shows are more violent. There's more sexual content there. They're more adult in a way. Whereas movies these days they're all supposed to be PG-13, especially action movies. We rarely get those violent, those sleazy action movies that those cool movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And that sort of has left a mark here. And I think that's what I want to see from the future. I want more directors to have some freedom. Because I feel that the studios only screw things up in a way.
Yeah, I agree with it. You said that goes back to the business side of cinema and films and television, where it's about, at the end of the day, it's about making money. This is a job, right?
Sure.
But
I'm sure the studio heads love movies too.
Yeah, they do. But the first thing that they're thinking about is making profits and a lot
Sure.
of money, right? Because they see like Warner Brothers sees what Marvel is doing, and
Sure.
they also want to do the same, right? But that's a problem when you think of competing. You're thinking about something else. You're distracting yourself.
Sure.
Distracting your own project with something else
Mhm.
when you should really be focusing about yourself.
Yeah.
And what you're doing, not somebody else is doing. Yeah, and I guess that's why, and that goes back to, directors, not having a lot of creativity and freedom. No, I mean, they have a lot of, a lot of directors are very creative, but not creatively involved in the process.
Or rather, they don't get to realize their creative ideas because of studio heads.
An example is, of course, Dune by David Lynch, who completely abandoned the film. He didn't want anything to do with it after, creative difficulties.
And that's one confusing movie, even for David Lynch movie. Really confusing.
Yeah. Where's my train of thought? I lost track. I mean, generally what I want to see is, there's a good, you mentioned television, which is, had a period of a boom, like the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years.
I'd say, yeah, or rather, since Breaking Bad.
Yeah, since
Breaking Bad jump started it, and now we had great shows like Sons of Anarchy, Dexter,
The Walking Dead. Oh, yeah. Well, people like it, and
Hannibal,
Game of Thrones. Yeah. Because I guess in television, I don't know how they do it. I guess there's a lot more freedom involved.
A lot more time to develop characters too.
Yeah, exactly. You have a lot more time to, I guess, learn about the characters and see them progress throughout 10 hours of television as opposed to like 2 hours of film. But it's great with television is that you have Netflix, which creates a whole new market and a demographic for different demographics, and it's a great platform for actors and filmmakers to work on. It's I guess I can compare it a little bit to indie games where you had PlayStation Network and Xbox Live,
sure,
where indie developers could had a great platform to make their to less known games and games with smaller budgets, and to release it on such a big platform where different people can try the game out, enjoy it. It's I think that's really good. The internet has
opened so many doors.
Yeah, the internet has been, in my opinion, very, very negative. I mean, not negative, but it's
in some ways.
Yeah, it's negative in some ways.
I think the streaming of movies is in some ways a negative thing, because I think it might evolve to studios being able to charge us for every movie we will watch every time, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That eventually every movie studio will have their own streaming service.
Yeah.
And you'll have to pay like, let's say, perhaps $1 a movie.
I mean, the YouTube, for example, has that, where you,
I know.
You pay, it's basically like a rental service. You rent, pay. How is it? I mean, we haven't done it, and we probably never will.
No.
But, I mean, yeah, it's negative in that way, but it's also positive, and it creates a new platform for future and younger actors and filmmakers to work in.
Sure.
To work in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's we have different web series, for example, and people get a lot more jobs these days, thanks to the internet.
But I guess the positive thing is that we now get so many great TV shows like the Daredevil.
Yeah, we just
on
watched
Netflix.
We just watched season 2, and that was
It was good.
That was pretty good.
It was.
And they practically hired unknown actors, right?
Well, I mean,
some of them.
So some of them. I mean, Chris Cox is quite, or what's his name again?
John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal is very well known at this point.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean these many of those actors were not big before this, and it's. I think it's just great because many of these shows would not have been made otherwise.
Yeah, especially with. I'm sorry for cutting you off. Especially with we have Netflix where there's there are some boundaries. You're not going to see a Serbian film on Netflix. I mean that's guaranteed. I think. But
yeah.
But I don't think you'd see like Daredevil go to be as violent on cable, for example.
Oh no.
So it's great that Netflix has that, and I guess other networks have like HBO. I mean they go full out with nudity and violence.
But so what do you think about remakes? Because we are in a remake phase at this point.
Yeah, we are.
And reboot phase.
We are.
More of a reboot phase, I feel. I mean, I feel that after, movies like Jurassic World, Star Wars The Force Awakens, and Creed, they're like pseudo sequels slash reboots.
And spin-offs, yeah. I
mean, I guess. What do you think about that?
I guess the studios. I mean, this is just purely speculation on my part, but I guess the studio just maybe they ran out of ideas or something like that. But I guess they found, there had been so many failures with original ideas. I don't know, but maybe they looked back on different franchises and thought, "Oh, this guarantees us, a lot of money, basically." When it just boot it up again and give it a modern spin or something like that.
But the thing is that if you look at many remakes, they usually don't make that much money. I feel.
No,
usually not. I mean, it's usually like.
Well, I mean the
Point Blank Point Break. The recent Point Break remake.
Oh my god!
That flopped big time. I think the new Ghostbusters remake is going to flop big time. I mean, everyone hates that trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, you got
Total Recall.
Oh yeah, that was a huge flop. I mean, it's almost there are so many remakes that keep failing, and I almost feel that they should try. I mean, there are many people with original ideas out there, many people, and they should just go for those ideas instead. I mean, everyone hates remakes. Most movie buffs do, and I know that's not the main focus on. The people they want to appeal to are not the movie buffs, but the people who on occasion will go to the movies, because those are
the casual viewer.
Yeah, the casual viewer. But I think even figures even show that those people are now tired of the remakes, and yeah.
I completely agree, but I think that the remakes, I think we're gonna see less of them. I mean, you just said it. They're not doing very well at the box office, and critically, they're not very good as well.
Oh no! I mean, everyone hates them.
I guess
it's just like an excuse to start rambling, and criticizing.
Right. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot more reboots and a lot more sequels in the future.
Yeah.
Especially there has been like a huge boom with superhero films thanks to Marvel and the Spider-Man series and the X-Men series and so on.
Yeah.
Chris Nolan's Dark Knight franchise. But I mean that's completely fine. We all love these characters and we wanna see them come to life. But I just hope that as you said, we get to see a lot more fresh ideas, a lot more younger people get chances. I mean, a movie I go back to is Take Shelter, which in my opinion is one of the best films I've seen in the last 5 years. Because I mean, for me at least, it's very original in its story and like the whole narrative and the way it talks about mental illness and delusions and so on. So, and films like The Hunt or
Yeah.
films like that. I mean, in some ways, the film industry has a bright future, thanks to.
I think so too. I don't think the film industry will ever die because the movies these days are making so much bank. Like, grossing $1 billion is no longer something that happens occasionally.
Yeah.
There's like a couple of movies 2 or 3 movies who do that every year now after Avatar.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's a sad thing because if you look at most movies these days, many of them are either small dramas or huge blockbusters.
Right.
What we sort of miss is that middle ground. There's sort of smaller, more violent action movies, for instance.
Yeah.
The more gritty stuff. It's less and far between.
I mean, you had a long time ago when Gone with the Wind came out, which is considered one of the greatest films of all time. I mean, at one point that was the highest grossing film of all time.
Isn't it still the highest grossing?
Well, if you add
for inflation,
yeah, if you add the inflation, it probably is the greatest, highest grossing film of all time. But before you could, there was a lot more films that would today be dramas and less mainstream films.
Yeah.
At that time, they were probably like blockbusters.
Sure. They didn't have the special effects of today, though. So.
No, of course, right. Today it's more of a spectacle.
Yeah,
I think, and I mean, and that's the negative thing in my eyes. That it's more of a. I mean, basically, Hollywood is a money-making machine at the end of the day, and
always has been.
Yeah. And we'll probably never see a period like the 50s or the 60s in terms of those classics. Or like generally the greatest films of all time are for more like the 1920 period to the what do you say 70s, 80s.
I don't know. I mean, it's for me. I think every period of time has its share of great movies. I don't think a particular period of time created better movies than the other. I actually think most movies are equal because we only remember the really good ones or the really bad ones.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
everyone remembers Plan 9 from Outer Space. Everyone remembers Batman and or Batman and Robin. Everyone remembers Battlefield Earth. I mean, everyone remembers the best and the worst.
Yeah.
And that is how it is going to be forever in the future. I mean, I don't think a particular time period of movies are better necessarily, but I think there are certain times when the directors are allowed to do more, and that was in the 70s, you know, where we had directors like Spielberg, Lucas,
Scorsese,
and my personal favorite, Coppola.
and Scorsese.
Yeah, and in that time, those guys were allowed to do anything they want, or they were given very free reins on what to do, and that shows. So I don't think movies are becoming worse necessarily, but I think creativity in Hollywood is a bit on the low side at the moment, but that's only temporarily. I think it's going to change again.
I mean, there's always those. It's like a continuing cycle, right?
Yeah.
You had like in the 70s, you had those exploitation films, and in the 80s you had cool. In the 80s you had, what do you have in the 80s? Like very colorful, very like electronic, like it's electronic music.
Quite artistic, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I don't feel that the 80s necessarily have that much of a style to it. I guess I'll be butchered by some film snobs here, but I feel that the 80s was more about the pop thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Rocky 4. I mean, many people say that's the by definition is like the most 80s movies ever made, because it's like 40% montages. And it's actually a really cool movie. I love Rocky 4. It's one of those guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of, and it's not even a bad movie, because many of the dramatic stuff works really well, but it's just intercut with these very, very 80s music videos and montages, and it's kind of, in that sense, it makes it weird. But yeah, you know, in the 90s was sort of a things were actually kind of movies were quite violent in the 90s.
Yeah, there are a lot more crash TV, if you know what I mean. A lot more action oriented.
Oh yeah. You know, you had movies like what's it?
The Die Hard franchise.
Yeah, they really kicked off in the 90s, and you got that, and you got David Fincher with Seven and Fight Club.
Yeah.
And you got, I mean, the superhero movies were really cheesy at that time too.
Yeah.
They were, but you know, you had like really violent action movies, like
a lot more darker films, I'd say. A lot more, you know, things about, you know, drugs and so on, like the drug business. Yeah. Mob films, gangster films, and so on.
Like you know, Goodfellas and LA Confidential.
What do you associate the 2000s with? You know, I associate more with beginning of those superhero films.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, I sort of associated 2000s with more safety. Films got less raunchy.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, you know, you had the American Pies and such, but movies are a lot less violent now than they were, I feel. I mean, I think the 2000s were sort of almost a traditional stage between the 90s and today, more than anything. I don't feel that. I feel that they were sort of a mix between what we have now and what we had then.
Yeah.
And now we have a more distinct period where more remakes. Superhero movies are dominating, mostly PG-13 action movies.
Yeah.
And I feel that the 2000s were much more of a traditional stage. So, but I think.
I think that was the period where, you know, you had like when Spider-Man was really huge success, and X-Men.
Yeah.
And the studios saw that like, yeah, this is making a lot of money, and critically they were very good, you know.
They were.
And
I mean, I think the X-Men movies and the early Spider-Man movies are still among the finest of the genre.
Yeah.
They really are.
Because we'll still look back on them from
10 years ago.
Yeah.
10, 15 years
and
ago.
I guess they sort of pioneered That's
They paved the way.
Yeah.
They paved the way, but it's kind of. I still sort of feel that. I still agree with you that we are at a low point in some ways. You know, I think the superhero movie genre is sort of drawing its last breath. I think it will soon die out in favor of another.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, in regards to the Marvel films, to this point, it has been completely fine with their films.
I actually hope Infinity Wars just. I just hope they take a break after that.
I really do. I hope so, because
a 15-year break would be great.
I mean,
they probably won't do that.
They won't do that. I guarantee they won't do that. But what I hope is that they really, you know, do something different and push the boundaries and do something that, you know, sets the tone for the next generation.
Yeah.
And I hope they'll get more ballsy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I hope they maybe they can kill off some characters. I don't know. Maybe they can kill off Captain America. I don't know. Iron Man probably. I'm pretty sick of him. But yeah, let's talk about. We have talked a little bit about America or Hollywood in general. Let's talk about more, you know, outside the United States. Let's talk about Asian or European films that interest us.
I guess we can talk more about the state of, films there in Norway, in which I feel that they are in some ways just imitating ancient American tropes. You know, I feel that every major Norwegian movie feels like the most generic Hollywood production ever. It's so embarrassing to look at because it's so bland and so terrible. Like, I think the exception is a movie called Headhunters, which is actually really great, which all of you should check out before it's remade in the United States either as a TV show or a movie. Because, Kon-Tiki, which everyone loved here in Norway, was generic as fuck. Mad Max Manus, the exact same thing, generic as fuck. What's the other movie? Birkebeinerne.
What's that in English?
I don't know. I think it was like The Last King of Norway or something. But that film was abysmal. People were sitting and laughing at some of the scenes in the theater because
embarrassing.
It was embarrassingly bad.
People were embarrassed to watch this shit.
Yeah, I mean, they were sitting there and laughing. They thought this was hilarious because it was so terrible, and it was. Yeah, so I think that's sort of what I currently want to discuss about the state of European movies, because here in Norway we just we're doing a terrible job at imitating America, and it shows. Yeah. With the exception of Headhunters, most Norwegian movies are just terrible.
You probably know a lot more about me. I mean, I've seen a very few Norwegian films. Like, I've seen Max Manus.
Yeah.
That was okay. I mean, it tried to be an American
war epic.
War epic, but it fell flat. But it was all right, you know. And I mean, for films, Norway doesn't have a lot.
No.
The reason I don't watch Norwegian films a lot, because I don't know, something about the language, man. As a film language, it just sounds so
weird,
and
I think people are just terrible at writing dialogue in Norwegian.
Maybe they are.
They don't make it sound natural. I feel that they try. I feel that they try to make Norwegian be like English. They sort of write Norwegian dialogue with like an English feel to it, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like there's like a scene in The Last King of Norway, aka Birkebanen, where it's like, if you kill me, I'll kill you.
Yeah, if I die, I'll kill you.
Yeah. It's like a guy is supposed to operate. I mean, that's such an American moment.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, in English, it would probably had like a comic relief.
it was supposed to be a comic relief here. I mean, it kind of worked too because one of the actors did a really great job, but it was kind of, you just sort of sat there and felt like, yeah, you probably tried to be a little American here, didn't you?
Yeah. Maybe, but I think it's kind of Norway doesn't have a lot going film wise.
No.
I mean,
population of 5 million.
Yeah, of course, there's that. But I mean, how many directors does Norway have? I mean,
a couple of hundred, I think.
Like, what are some of the better directors that we have?
What's his name again?
Harald Svart.
No, he's bad. We have a guy called Poppe. We got the guy who directed Morten Tyldum. He directed first Headhunters and then The Imitation Game, which is great.
Yeah.
And we have the guy who directed Oslo 31st August.
Yeah.
And he also directed Louder Than Bombs, which was supposedly quite good.
Okay.
So we have some good ones, but we have, not compared to the Swedes and Danes.
Ricola.
Yeah, he's cool too.
Dead Snow. Dead Snow is a pretty good film.
Dead Snow is awesome.
Dead Snow is a pretty good film.
It's awesome. I mean, I feel it should be on the same level as, say, Evil Dead, because it's so much fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's really fun, guys. But the Swedes, they have. Let me see here. They got Ingmar Bergman. They have which other director?
I don't know.
Okay. They got Ingmar Bergman, and that's pretty. He's a pretty great director. I mean, he's one of the greatest directors of all time.
Right.
He really is. And the Danes. Oh, the Danes. They got Lars von Trier. They got
Niklas Winding Refn.
Yeah.
And they got the guy who made, what's his name? The guy who made Hunt.
I don't remember, but they got that guy too.
They got that guy too.
So that's saying something.
I mean, in regards to Scandinavia in general, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, I feel their strongest point is television dramas. Like those crime dramas. We've seen a lot of them have been very successful recently. Not just in Norway, but in other countries like Ireland and Great Britain, England, Scotland, so on. And I think France and Germany too. You have, like, for example, The Killing, the original Danish TV show, which was fairly successful and turned into an American. They turned into an American remake.
Yeah.
And I guess they should do more crime dramas. I mean, Scandinavia has a lot of good crime writers.
Yeah, like Stieg Larsson
and Jo Nesbø. So I think they should do more of that.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of all three countries are collaborating with each other in those dramas. We have
yeah,
like a Danish show with Norwegian and Swedish actors and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, film-wise, Norway doesn't have a lot, but in comparison to Sweden and Denmark, but I guess more TV dramas.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how Snowman turn out. Michael Fassbender.
I think that will be great, to be honest.
I hope so. Yeah, that was Scandinavia.
I guess that wraps things up for this time.
We should do more. We should do this more often. Like,
You should. I guess it will depend on the response. So if you like this video, like and subscribe, and share it with your friends.
Share it, spread the word.
Have a good evening.
And thanks for listening.